Hi guys, I wanted to do one of these with you in case you were struggling with yesterday's assignment. We would have done this in class had we been in person. So these are not the end of the world, but what's difficult is writing the formulas. And you have to write the formulas correctly in order to have it all correct. So you only have to do 5 and they're 3 points each. And so we'll walk through how the 3 points go. Okay. So I thought number 1 would be great just to start off. And if you did it already, just check and make sure you did it right. So number 1 says when aqueous beryllium chloride reacts with silver nitrate solution, comma, aqueous beryllium nitrate and silver chloride powder are made. That comma is very important. That's why I said comma. Oh, sorry, hit the wrong thing. All right, so first thing I like to do, label reactants, label products, figure out where our plus sign goes, figure out where the arrow goes, all that kind of stuff. So beryllium chloride reacts with, so reacts with stands for plus. So that means that beryllium chloride is a reactant and it's reacting with silver nitrate. So that is also a reactant. Okay. And then there's this comma. Aqueous beryllium nitrate and silver chloride powder are made. So the are made tells you that those two things are products. The beryllium nitrate is a product and the silver chloride powder is a product. Okay. But you don't put the arrow at the are made part because that doesn't make sense. You have to put it where the comma is so that it goes between the reactants and the products. Okay. I try to make it not so boring by changing up the sentences, but it can get tricky. So that's why I wanted to do this one. Okay, so after we figure out we have 2 reactants and we have 2 products, next thing we need to do is write them out. Write them out using our flow chart, maybe using our periodic table, definitely, so that we do things correctly. Okay, so beryllium chloride. Beryllium is Be on the periodic table. And if you look for beryllium, it's on the left side in the second column. So that means that it has a +2 charge. Chloride, you could look for that on the back of your periodic table, but you won't find it because that's just chlorine, Cl, and that has a -1 charge based on its column. So remember, if the don't match, the 2 is going to go down by the chlorine's subscript. So beryllium chloride is going to be BeCl2. Okay. Reacts with, so plus, silver nitrate. Silver is in the middle, but it is always the same charge. And if you were in my classroom right now, physically, I would point to it because I have a poster that reminds you that silver is always +1. You might find that on your periodic table. I don't know. There's really fine print there that I have a hard time reading. Then nitrate is on the back of your periodic table. And so you'd see that with the polyatomic ions is NO3 -1. So since +1 -1, they cancel each other out. That means that it's going to just be AgNO3 for silver nitrate. Okay, then next comes the arrow. The arrow always points to the right. Never point it any other way except to the right because they always points to the products. So then now we have to write our products. So one of the nice things about the way that I'm doing it is I've already looked up everybody's charges, so I don't have to look them up again. Beryllium, I had it right over here, is Be +2. And nitrate is right here. So that's NO3 -1. So just like we had to do for the beryllium chloride and take that 2 down, we're going to have to do that for this one too. But we have to put the nitrate in parentheses so that we can see that that is still grouped and that NO3 is grouped together. And then the 2 goes on the outside. Okay. And sorry, I forgot to put a plus sign up there. And silver chloride. So silver, we know has +1 because we just used it. And chlorine has a -1 because we just used it. So silver chloride will be AgCl. All right, so at this point, we've got 1 out of 3 points after doing all of that work. I know, I'm horrible. So next thing, we need to balance it. And this is where at this point, if you don't have enough space on the worksheet, you can always have a separate piece of paper to help you with balancing. If you still need to like draw the line and write out all the elements and all that kind of stuff. But to help us speed things along a little bit, do you see how there's like 2 chlorines there and only 1 chlorine here? So to make that work out, we'll put a 2 in front of the AgCl. And then that makes 2 silvers. So then on the left side of the arrow, we have to put a 2 in front of the silver nitrate. Now that makes 2 NO3 groups because that 2 distributes, but that's okay because we've got 2 NO3 groups there. Okay, so now it's balanced. Let me erase these lines. So we're at 2 out of 3 points right now. Last thing that we've got to do is we've got to write states of matter. So the states of matter are given in the problem. Okay, so you have to look for keywords here. So the aqueous beryllium chloride tells us that the BeCl2 will be labeled as AQ for aqueous. Okay, then the silver nitrate is a solution, and you should have written this down from your notes. Solutions are always labeled as aqueous. Okay, then for the products, we've got aqueous beryllium nitrate. Yes, sometimes it does feel redundant on those states of matter, but then we've got silver chloride powder. Powders are not aqueous, they're not liquids, and they're not gases. Powders are a very fine solid particle. So the AgCl would be labeled as solid. All right, so there we get 1 point for writing out the formulas correctly, 1 point for balancing it correctly, and 1 point for every state of matter being put on correctly. Okay, so now you only have to do 4 more yourself. I will tell you, number 2, that one's a little tough to balance. So if you don't want to do that one, just skip it. Okay, but the rest of them shouldn't be too bad. And I don't think a single one of them is already balanced when you write it. So be very careful with your writing of formulas and all of that. Before we turn these in when we get back to school, you will definitely be able to check the answer key. We're going to make sure that you know what you're doing before we move on, kind of thing. So ask me if you have questions.